My goodness, Senator McCrae's got a tie on.
And we just live.
I haven't seen one of those since March.
You know what? We just hit Annapolis and getting back into the spirit.
There you go.
Yep. Everybody, we just went live, so we'll get the meeting started at this moment. If everyone can put their microphones on mute, and we will get started. Just want to say good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Welcome to our first Baltimore City Senate delegation bill hearing of the 2021 legislative session. And my first is our delegation chairman. Today, we will have 3 bills providing a legislative briefing, provided a legislative briefing from our Enoch Pratt Free Library. But first, before we go into the bill hearings, respectfully, I just wanted to also make sure that I acknowledge my colleagues that are here at this moment and my colleagues that will be joining us. To the right of my screen, I see Senator Murray L. Washington. We also have Senator Charles Sidnor III, and we will be joined by Senator Bill Ferguson. We will be joined by Senator Antonio Hayes, and we will be joined by Senator Carter momentarily. I'd also like to recognize our government relations person, Madam Director, Natasha Mehu for Baltimore City. Give us a wave, Natasha. But before we get started, I think that it's more appropriate, and I think my colleagues would agree with this. We lost a lion for the Senate, one of our fearless leaders this past week. So if we could just take the opportunity just to do a moment of silence for Senate President Emeritus Mike Miller at this moment. Thank you. With the bill hearings, I'm going to skip out of the bill orders, colleagues. We have several witnesses here to present today. Witnesses will be given 3 to 5 minutes to provide oral testimony. I, as chair, will reserve the right to ask folks to conclude their statement at the appropriate time. And I also ask for all of the witnesses, please remain courteous to our senators and those watching in the virtual audience. Because Senator Carter isn't here at the moment, but will be joining us momentarily, I just wanted to take the opportunity to go through Senate Bill 364, if that's okay with my colleagues. And what I'll do is I'll explain what Senate Bill 364 does. And just to be clear, we will not be voting on any bills at this hearing at this moment. We will be taking them up in our future delegation meetings, but we will be doing the bill hearings respectfully. Senate Bill 364 is civil claims against law enforcement officers of institutions of higher education, prohibition against non-disclosure provisions and settlement agreements. Respectfully, this is something that the city council worked on just in the previous years. They made sure that when our Baltimore Police Department paid out lawsuits, that there wasn't any form of a settlement agreement that said that folks wouldn't be able to speak their truth, so they wouldn't have a non-disclosure agreement tied with the settlement agreement. There was a number of our respective constituents that joined and said, hey, we want to make sure that all police departments in the city of Baltimore are following the same provision. And we have some that are under the state's purview and making sure that they're operating and synonymous with how our Baltimore City residents expect them to operate. This bill will be going before JPR. And just wanted to make sure that and see if there's any of my colleagues in reference to Senate Bill 364. Senator Carter.
Thank you, Senator McCrae, and I apologize that I haven't read the bill in advance. So is this simply dealing with non-disclosure agreements, or is there more to the bill than that?
It's simply dealing with non-disclosure agreements in reference to settlement agreements. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. If there are no more further questions, we will go into, I see that we've been joined by Senator Carter. So we'll go into Senate Bill 396 if that's okay with you, Senator Carter, and if you're ready.
Yes, thank you so much. So colleagues, it's a pleasure to be with you again at our first official bill hearing meeting. This bill is the result of community concerns in the Irvington neighborhood. It was actually brought by the neighborhood association to help improve the quality of life in the surrounding area. There were multiple complaints of this one particular liquor establishment. And so the bill simply would modify the hours of operation from currently 6 to 2 a.m. and it would modify those hours to 9 to 9 p.m. This is not the first time we've done such a thing. We did a similar piece of legislation some years ago in the Park Heights community, and we did another very similar bill in the Howard Park community for, I think it was 4G's liquor establishment. And so because there is overwhelming support from the community, and this is a bill that's brought by our whole delegation, the delegates on the House side as well. Also, City Councilman for the area, Christopher Burnett, has voiced support, may even have written testimony. I would urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carter. I know that you have a witness in reference to this respective bill. If we can call up the president of the Northwestern District Community Relations Council, President Sean Stinnett.
Yes, good morning, Chairman McCray and committee. Thank you for the opportunity, and also Senator Joe Carter. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to present in support of Senate Bill 396. Just like Senator Carter had mentioned, that the same type of bill was done in the Park Heights and Liberty Wabash, Howard Park community, as far as having liquor store hours from 9 to 9. It's definitely has brought a positive effect as far as within those areas that brought down, we still have our challenges, but still brought down a lot of high violent crime issues, drug or even some sort of, even foot traffic, loitering. So that brings that down. That also assists the police department when it comes to their crime reduction strategy. So I do know, as far as that, this will be effective in the Southwestern District of Irvington. I do know the issues as far as what Community President Dorothy Cunningham has been addressing and has been addressing for a number of years along with the community. So it will bring a positive effect if those hours can be trained to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And it definitely will start, it will at least put the direction in a positive direction as far as reducing the violent crime, drug activity, and so forth that has been plaguing that particular community for some years now.
Thank you, Senator Carter. I just want to make sure that you don't have any more witnesses. I believe that President Stinnett was the only one, but.
I think so. I mean, if Christopher Burnett is not here, that's the only other person I thought potentially was going to be here. I don't think Cunningham was coming or anybody from the Irvington Association. So I think that is it. If not, speak now.
Is there any questions of our colleagues?
Wurzberger, I think, wants to weigh in on some data regarding that establishment.
Okay, well, she just joined. We don't want to throw off like that. I'll get her. I'll just see if it's any questions of our colleagues for President Stinnett or Senator Carter at the moment. And Ms. Wurzberger, you got through on the hot spot for a second. Just wanted to see if you wanted to comment on Bill 396, in the Baltimore City alcoholic beverages license hours of sale, being presented by Senator Carter. I know you just joined 2 minutes ago, but if you have
I
any.
did. My apologies. Good morning, everyone. I was trying to watch it online because I didn't think I had a role in the meeting this morning. I am not going to comment on that bill at this point, but I can perhaps at another time.
Thank you.
Ms. Wurzberger. Well, seeing no further questions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Senator Sidnor.
thank you. I have one question. It's my understanding that I think there may be another piece of legislation that's like this, and I'm curious if these hours are in state law, and if so, rather than doing this piecemeal, I mean, if this is an approach that works, and the committee or the delegation doesn't believe that liquor stores should be open to 2 a.m., is there something that we could just do throughout the entire jurisdiction rather than having certain facilities at different hours than others?
Well, thanks, Senator Sidnor. I mean, I certainly think that's something that our delegation could take up, but I mean, I think that it would be important to, touch base and engage with the various different communities and community associations to make sure, because I think in this case, this is something that was brought by them, but it's possible, I suppose, there could be some areas that aren't in agreement. So I'd say that it's something that we should consider, but we probably need to do a little bit more due diligence in determining, whether or not there is a level of support across the district, across the city.
Thank you.
And just to comment on your question, Senator Sidnor, we did a similar bill, but it was in a geographic boundary and looked towards something else, but there was a council person and some folks that were in disagreement about changing the hours. So I think that Senator Carter said it in the right tone, making sure that we get a pulse of everyone out there before just broadly looking at the city piece of it. So.
And also, Mr. Chairman, to Senator Sidnor, it's also that there are good actors. I mean, there are establishments that are responsible, that are open until 2 a.m. And then there are those areas where they're persistently not cooperative and predatory and harboring crime. And so using this power that we have to support locals, I think is now maybe we could do a more coordinated, do it all in one bill in the particular areas. But at this point, I think it would be premature to just say across the city of Baltimore that these are the hours. So, but I like the idea. So,
yeah. Is there any more questions on Senate Bill 396? Seeing no more questions, this concludes the bill hearing for Senate Bill 396. We are going to move to Senate Bill 378. Senator Hayes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, colleagues, and those of you who may be listening at home. This morning, I'm presenting on Senate Bill 378, which is no stranger to this delegation as we passed it out last year, and we simply ran out of time during this legislative session. Department of Health states that 7,500 adults in Maryland die each year due to tobacco-related causes, and hundreds of thousands more suffer from tobacco-related diseases. Smoking continues to be the leading public health hazard in Baltimore City. To address this hazard, legislation can be enacted and enforced more efficiently at the local level as opposed at the state level. Senate Bill 378 would enable greater efficiency in addressing smoking hazards by authorizing the Baltimore City Council and the Mayor of City of Baltimore to enact and enforce laws regulating the sale and distribution of cigarettes and other smoking devices. Currently, Baltimore City is preempted from legislating in the aforementioned fields due to the Maryland Court of Appeals holding and the Aldeas versus Prince George's County case. Other jurisdictions such as New York, Philadelphia has passed legislation to prevent similar situations from arising because it inhibits effective and efficient control over tobacco-related density, which is directly correlated to uses. Additionally, this bill would allow Baltimore City to enforce tobacco laws in tandem with the Comptroller's Office. This creates a meaningful opportunity for local government to reduce the the burden of broad enforcement that currently falls upon the Comptroller. Furthermore, Senate Bill 378 makes an important exception for the issuance of licenses, ensuring that Baltimore City Council and Mayor are not authorized to enact and enforce local legislation relating to licenses for imposition of taxes on cigarettes. Right now, you all know, you all may or may not know, or you may know based off of last year's testimony, the State Comptroller's Office, who is the primary responder as far as enforcement of tobacco violations in the city, whether it be selling loosies or selling cigarettes to those who are under the appropriate age, falls under the Comptroller's Office. The Comptroller have about 6, I think, enforcement officers that's responsible for the entire state of Maryland, whereas our Baltimore City Health Department multiplied that in many ways to make sure that we're abiding by all of the regulations. And so it would be a force multiplier to give our local health department the authority, in this case through Senate Bill 378, to enforce some of these laws. And so with that, Mr. Chair, members of the delegation, I urge your favorable support.
Thank you, Senator Hayes. And I know that we have a number of witnesses. I'm going to start to call them up. I know that you have Director Natasha Mehu, I believe, on this. I know that Ms. Green from our health department will be also commenting on this. We also have a University of Maryland student, correct?
Yes, Brooke should be here.
Yep, Ms. Thornton is currently here. So if those are the 3, if we can call them in that order, if you can come up, maybe we'll start with Ms. Green, Director Mehu, if that's okay.
Good morning, Chair McCray and members of the delegation. My name is Kamala Green, Director of Health Promotion and Disease Prevention here at the Baltimore City Health Department. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about Senate Bill 378. With more than 1,600 retail establishments licensed to sell the tobacco products, Baltimore City has the largest number of licensed cigarette retailers of any jurisdiction in the state of Maryland. There is no coincidence that we are also the highest in the state in regards to tobacco use and the mortality rate associated with tobacco use. Therefore, historically, in 2008, along with other jurisdictions, we started to enact and work diligently to curb tobacco usage rates by using a legislative tool. And then in the Court of Appeals versus Altadas, Prince George's versus Altadas, we were unable to effectively be able to enforce the laws of the state as well as the Baltimore City health codes. So therefore, we enacted a 311 call response. That gave us the opportunity to address, not enforce the laws, but only address the concerns of our residents, to be able to enforce only the sale of tobacco to underage persons. With that response, we were able to start to understand that not only was this a public health concern, but this was also a public safety concern. Many of the complaints regarding these tobacco retailers were also involved in violence and criminal activity. Our only goal with this Senate Bill 378 is to better address situations as they arise and to ease the concerns of our residents, to be able to have a healthier and safer city. If we are afforded the opportunity to enable this local authority, the Baltimore City Administration intends to adopt the proven practices and to collaborate with our local and state agencies, as in New York City, who is a leader in tobacco control in the United States, to be able to enforce as well as provide a greater public health and public safety in the city of Baltimore. We are respectfully requesting a favorable report on Senate Bill 378. Thank you for this opportunity, and I will pass it on to the next person.
Thank you, Ms. Green. Director Mehu.
Morning, Chair McCray and members of the delegation. Natasha May here on behalf of the Mayor's Office in support of Senate Bill 378. I want to thank Senator Hayes for sponsoring this bill and thank Kamala for her remarks. So this bill would ensure that the city and the health departments can enforce the local laws to regulate tobacco sales. As has been discussed, this is a priority for the health department and for the mayor's office due to the high number of retail establishments that sell tobacco in the city, the high number of use of tobacco products in the city, and all the health issues associated with tobacco use. This was an authority that the city and other local jurisdictions had for years until the Altatus decision, which did challenge Prince George's County's local laws. Under the doctrine of implied preemption. This muddied the waters of local enforcement and invalidated or severely limited the authority of the city and the other jurisdictions to enforce tobacco sales. So this decision has created loopholes which allow businesses to violate laws without sufficient enforcement authority on the local end to ensure that they're appropriately held accountable for their violations. It's essential for the health and welfare of our communities, particularly our youth, that the city can act in its residents' best interest to enforce our local laws. And with that, we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Brooke Torton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I would first thank Senator Hayes for sponsoring this bill, and thank you to the colleagues that spoke before me. I agree with your remarks as well. My name is Brooke Torton. I'm the Deputy Director of the Legal Resource Center for Public Health Policy. We're located at the University of Maryland School of Law. And I'm really just here to provide some background legal information to address why we actually need this bill, SB 378. And so what this would do is it restores authority that Baltimore City had for years and years to enact and enforce laws regulating the sale of tobacco products. So like we've heard this authority was stripped from local jurisdictions, including Baltimore City, as a result of this 2013 court decision, Altatus versus Prince George's County. And what it held was that because the General Assembly had passed a law requiring that cigars be licensed, and they developed a licensing scheme for cigars and other tobacco products, that the General Assembly impliedly preempted locals from enacting laws relating to the sale and distribution of tobacco products. So just as a very brief refresher that we all know some about, preemption is that constitutional doctrine that the federal law is the supreme law over any conflicting state or local law. And so of course the same would apply as between state and local law. The state law would be controlling. And there are many different kinds of preemption. It can be express, which just means the statute explicitly says, locals or the lower level government can't regulate in this area. Or it can be implied, which is what we're dealing with here. The specific type of implied preemption we're dealing with, it's called field preemption. And that happens, like we're dealing with, when the court says that the state or the federal government has so heavily, so extensively regulated in the field that they're suggesting an intent to occupy the entire subject matter, and that the locals, the lower level of government, they can't enact in that area. And that's what the court did here. So specifically, in that court decision, that 2013 court decision, it held that this 2008 Prince George's County ordinance requiring cigars to be sold in packages of at least 5 was impliedly preempted by state law. And what was interesting in that court opinion is they focused extensively on just the mere existence of this other tobacco product licensing scheme that passed in 2011. And what's really interesting here is that licensing scheme actually passed after oral argument in this case. So the lawyers went before the Court of Appeals, made their arguments, and then months later, it was more like, I think, a year and a half, the court issued its decision and relied on this law that passed after argument had been made. And so while this court decision was pending, during that 2011 session, my office provided extensive legal technical assistance on this bill. They work really closely with the Office of the Comptroller, with opponents, with advocates. There was never a discussion or concern or any kind of intention to preempt local authority. It was a public health community bill. They never would have supported curtailing local powers. The one other point I want to make about the court's decision, which many advocates and many lawyers would take issue with, they were really focused on this licensing scheme, but specifically the state defined a package of cigars as being not more than 10. That Prince George's County ordinance defined it as a minimum of 5, and they said that these were at odds with one another. But certainly a minimum of 5 cigars is not at odds with not more than 10 because 5 is included within 10. So that was just kind of, I want to highlight that point as just being a concern with the court's decision. Happy to answer any questions anyone may have here or outside of here, and we would respectfully ask for a favorable report.
Thank you, Mrs. Torton. And at this moment, I'm going to see if there are any of my colleagues. Before we ask my colleagues if they have questions, first I want to acknowledge to everyone in the public audience that we've been joined by our Senate President, one of our members of the Baltimore City delegation, Senate President Bill Ferguson. And it looks like at this time it's appropriate where our senators would have questions. And I see that there is one senator with a question, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hayes, for the bill. I just have a quick question. I'm sorry for being late today. We have our former colleague who is laying in state, so the reception was this morning, so I apologize for being late. And if this was covered, this issue that's come up around the cigarette restitution fund and enforcement, and I just want to double check, and I don't know if this, Ms. Torton, is something that you have. Part of the enforcement side, there's something wrapped up in the cigarette restitution fund, enforcement, and our subsequent dollars. This is something that we're trying to find resources for the HBCU settlement piece. And just, if you don't know off the top of your head, if you could just follow up just to make sure that there's the change in enforcement doesn't impact the cigarette restitution fund dollars or the settlement agreement. I don't think it does. I just wanted to triple check to make sure.
Yeah, we'll look into that. This is the first time we ever heard it, but Brooke, you're the lawyer. You might have.
So no, all that this bill, SB 378, all it would do is authority back to the locals, or not the locals, really just back to Baltimore City to allow them to pass laws. So for example, pass a law relating to maybe flavored tobacco products, something like that. That's all it would do. It wouldn't have an impact on the cigarette restitution fund.
Right, and I'll double check it. That's what the bill does, but I think what the president is saying, we want to make sure that they don't have any unintended consequences that we may not have considered, and so I'll look into it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to connect with you outside of here just to make very certain of that.
But also, hopefully, that doesn't slow down the progression of this piece of legislation.
No. Just wanted something I wanted to flag. Senator wanted to flag. Great, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you. I just want to see if there are any other questions from any of my colleagues. Senator Washington.
I've got my little hand up there too.
I see you, Senator.
My color-coded hand. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill, and thank you for your introductory remarks. It's great to have this authority. Your opening remarks about the targeting of urban areas and Black and brown people. And it's very consistent with some other legislation, that we're looking at with flavored tobacco and the targeting of flavored tobacco, to our communities and our children. Having Baltimore City being able to enact and enforce more strict legislation to protect its citizens is appropriate. So thank you so much for bringing that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no further questions, this concludes the hearing on Senate Bill 378. Thank you, Senator Hayes, for bringing us forward. I'd just like to say thank you very much to each and every witness that testified today and giving your oral testimony. Please feel free to remain with us, but we do ask that if you can turn your cameras off and remain muted, that would be greatly appreciated. Next, we will have a briefing. Legislative briefing from our library director, Heidi Daniel, and the Enoch Pratt Free Library team, who I believe is joined by the Bellamy Group, who represents the Pratt Free Library. Just wanted to say welcome, and Heidi, I'm gonna start with you if you wanted to lead, or I see that a member of your board is here if you wanted President Smoke, either or.
Well, good morning, Senators. I'll go ahead and lead, although I do want to thank Bellamy, Jen, our lobbyist, for setting this up with us and for being here this morning. And I do want to recognize the members of our legislative committee that are here with us, including Mr. Kurt Schmoke. We also have with us our board chair, Dr. Michelle Farmer, our chair of the legislative committee, Verna Jones-Rodwell, Nancy Hackerman, Alex Koff, Sarah Meyerhoff, and Bob Waldman. And I want to thank them. They're viewing, they're not on the Zoom link, but they're viewing this morning. So I want to thank them for being here. And our Chief Operating Officer for Enoch Pratt Free Library, Gordon Krabby, is with us as well. So good morning again, and thank you for having me. I want to start by thanking you for the broad-based support that you've shown for us on the expanded hours, which is now Senate Bill 477, which I've heard will have its, I just heard will have its first hearing on February 11th. That funding came after the uprising, after Freddie Gray, and allowed us to do quite a bit of work. In the last 3 years, we've expanded our hours by more than 30%. We've offered 4 days of evening hours at Pennsylvania Avenue, Southeast Anchor, Central. We've been able to expand the hours at small branches like Clifton from 17 hours a week to a full operating schedule. And it's stabilized across the city, the hours. We've seen significant increases in material usage over those 3 years, in attendance at programs, and the number of programs we can offer. And of course, this year we submitted an annual report that talked about the good work we did, but also acknowledged the impact that COVID-19 has had on our operating hours, which I'll get into some of the work we've done because we've hardly stayed closed in the traditional sense, or quiet, even if our building doors were closed to the public. I do want to mention that without this funding, we would have to not only reduce our hours significantly, but we will have to lay off a large number of our staff, possibly up to 80 or more staff members that are funded through this expanded hours bill. So this funding is critical to us. The city matches it at $750,000 or roughly that or more per year. So we do thank the city of Baltimore for that support as well. Since COVID-19 started, the Pratt has been working really endlessly to push our services in new directions. And we've had a lot of new services we started offering. We did start in June sidewalk service, so you can pick up your materials, on the sidewalk in front of the buildings. We started that in June. We now are offering it at all of our locations except Hamden, which is just finishing construction. We also moved our programs to online, so all of our big speaker series continues, but we had to move them online. We immediately added more curriculum support materials online for our partners at Baltimore City Public Schools and around the state. We, of course, then started to worry that there was not going to be access to this because of the significant number of households in Baltimore City that don't have internet access. So we offered drive-in Wi-Fi right away, which is where we added big antennas to 8 of our locations that have a lot of space to social distance around them outside. And we put the antennas up and expanded our signal in a pretty wide area so that people could access it. In some locations, I was just at Patterson Park the other day, and a customer at Sidewalk Service said they could actually get that signal in their house. So we did look immediately at doing that. We put hotspots on our mobile vehicles and started driving them around the city and parking them places so people could connect their devices through those. And then we started loaning hotspots as soon as we could get them in, so that individuals could have internet in their home by checking out a Wi-Fi. We have over 300 of those in circulation right now. We also purchased Chromebooks. It took us a while to get them in, but they're here and they're circulating. And in addition to that, we reached out to some of our funders and partners, and PNC did come on board and gave us funding that allowed us to do a couple of interesting things. In the Pennsylvania Avenue, North Avenue, and Sandtown, Winchester area, we did a targeted campaign, and we're offering an extended period of loan for Chromebooks and hotspots to individuals. But more importantly, we connect them with a digital navigator, what we call our outreach program assistants, and they walk them through anything that they want to do on that device that they get loaned from us. We've heard of people becoming contact tracers. through the program, getting training. We know that we launched a Career Online High School, which is an online program that allows you to finish your high school diploma. And we loaned the Chromebooks and hotspots for that. We just had our first graduate. She's a mom and she is going back to school to finish a nursing program. She did get a certificate through as well as her high school diploma. She got a career certificate in nursing and she's going to be continuing that. So we're very excited for her. In addition to that, we did open for computer appointments, but we had to scale back due to the advice of the health commissioner, which we take very seriously. But we're hoping to be able to reopen at least at 25% capacity or have our staff vaccinated so that we can open for a higher capacity in the near future. We moved our lawyer in the library program virtual. Our social worker in the library program went virtual and is doing very well. It includes this year not only our University of Maryland School of Social Work partner, but also our new partner, Morgan State University. And we're hoping to expand that and possibly work with Coppin State and some others this year. We also continued our statewide role offering training. In the statewide role that the library plays as the State Library Resource Center, we are the Baltimore City Library, but in addition, the state library. So we also continued supporting the IT infrastructure around the state. We immediately started doing different types of training. Right now, we're planning a large race, equity, and inclusivity training and conference for the whole state. And we also expanded the databases for schools and our library partners around the state. So with that, we continue our work and are hoping to, further expand what we're doing. As I said, we're working towards reopening right now. So we really want to thank you for the veto override of Senate Bill 524, which will allow us expanded funding for our State Library Resource Center. That per capita funding comes into the city and we can use that to operate our state library. So we appreciate that because otherwise we would be flat funded and we wouldn't be able to do some of the conferences and the databases that I just touched on. And I also want to just briefly mention that on January 27th, the Maryland Library Association is hosting a panel conversation with legislators. And I'm very pleased that Senator Cory McCray will be joining us on the panel at 8:30 a.m. via Zoom. And I want to thank Senator McCray overall for his support of this and of the PRAT as a whole. And so thank you all. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sometimes I forget I'm on mute. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Truly appreciative. Just wanted to see if you wanted to just swing off. Is the President Smoke making any comments or before we go to the senator for comments or questions or?
I'm just a member of the board, very supportive of the Pratt, has a huge impact, as you know, not only in the city, but the entire state. And I just joined the board recently, most enthusiastic about what Heidi is doing and the whole team. And the state support has been outstanding. We've really appreciated it. Look forward to continuing to work with you in partnership.
Thank you. At this moment, I'd just like to see if there are any comments or questions of my colleagues. Okay. Senator Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Senator McCray. No, I just want to say thank you to the Enoch Pratt, your board, and everyone. You all have definitely done a yeoman's job, as a lot of our young people haven't had an opportunity to go into the schools. You all have continuously gone above and beyond and provided opportunities for connectivity and also resources that our young people can depend on. And the quality of your program is, has increased. I think, we were really happy to see Dr. Hayden transition up to the Library of Congress, but, and people were, somewhat reluctant, like, oh, what's going to happen? But like Heidi, you have been an extraordinary leader in our city and making sure that that quality even raised the bar here in our city as far as providing a resource to our community. And so to all of you and your board, I just want to say thank you for your all's commitment to Baltimore and the state of Maryland.
Thank you, Senator. I'm, honored to be here. I'm completely committed to Baltimore and honored to follow Dr. Hayden. So thank you.
Phenomenal words, Senator Hayes. Just wanted to see if any of my other colleagues have any comments or questions before we. And if it's appropriate, we all co-sponsored Senate Bill 477. Heidi talked extensively in reference to the importance of keeping this going. While this isn't a Baltimore City specific bill, it has a large impact on our libraries in Baltimore City. So if it's appropriate at this moment, if there's a motion to do a letter to support Senate Bill 477, which is our library bill, I'll hear that motion. Senator Washington.
Thank you, Senator. So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Hayes, second.
Sure, I'll second.
So the motion on the floor is just to do a letter of support for Senate Bill 477 as our Baltimore City Senate delegation. Just letting folks know, or letting the Senate know, our colleagues know exactly what Senator Hayes said, that we believe that the library is making a phenomenal impact on our young people, our seniors, and our community. Just wanted to once again just lift up and on behalf of all of the senators, Senator Carter, Senator Hayes, Senator Ferguson, Senator Washington, Senator Sidnor, and myself, just wanted to say thank you for everything that you do for our community. Senator Washington, that was a hand raise. Was that just a amen?
No, that was a hi, amen. That's it. That's just saying goodbye to everybody. Just
Yep.
see you all.
Yep. And hearing no further questions, just wanted to say thank you to our library system. And that concludes our briefing for the library system. As we close today, just wanted to say, please feel free, to the public audience I'm speaking to, please feel free to engage with the Baltimore City Senate delegation on social media by following us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You may also visit us on the web, bcsdelegation.com. Again, that's bcsdelegation.com. We will be holding our bill hearings every Friday at 9 a.m. During the legislative session. I hope that everyone has a good week.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Were we going to vote on any of the other bills?
No, sir. We spoke about this early in the morning when we started.
Yeah, I was late. Sorry.
We said that we were going to do them next and at the following meeting. So we're going to hear bills out and then we'll vote
Okay.
in our following meetings. Is there any more questions before we adjourn this meeting by any of our colleagues? Okay. 9:45, just wanted to call this meeting to adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and thank you to the public and our senators for everything you do. Thank you. Have a blessed day.